All right, it is time for 31 Days of Horror 2019 with Split. Yeah, Split. Woohoo! So we're going thriller. Going for a thriller. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and talk all about Split with you for 31 Days of Horror. And this one I was hedging a little bit on including, but I find thrillers definitely can be scary. So I decided to go for it. I decided to go for it. And yeah, so let's take a look at the movie itself. This was written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. It stars James McAvoy, Anya Taylor-Joy, Becky Buckley, Lu Richardson, Jessica Sula, and Brad Williams Henke. Henke, I'm not sure if that's how you say it. You have there? I would not know how to say it from looking at it there versus looking at it here. So this one came out in 2016. I would definitely classify this as a thriller. This actually does also say supernatural thriller. I don't know if I would go that far, but I think I need to leave that yet again to the spoiler zone in terms of discussing the subgenre of horror films. And this one I gave a 7.5 out of 10 or a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, but no heart for this one. No heart for this one. It is definitely well done, but it didn't grab my heart, so it doesn't get a heart. So if you're unfamiliar with this one, this has a lot of challenges with it in terms of how you discuss it. I think that can be the case for almost any film by M. Night Shyamalan. I am someone who has enjoyed almost everything that I've seen that he's done, from, Unbreakable to Signs. I loved Signs. I like Lady in the Water. I know that's a not necessarily popular opinion. And I love The Village. The only one I didn't enjoy was The Happening. I think that's when things started to go wrong. But he is back with Split and has also done Glass. And so Unbreakable, Split, and Glass sort of create a non-traditional trilogy, can we say? And I know that when Split came out, it was one of the things that happened was that people didn't realize that it had any connection to Unbreakable. And I did rewatch Unbreakable last year in anticipation of watching all three films. I was hoping to see Glass in the theater, but that didn't happen. But when Split came up on Netflix, I decided, oh, okay, I'm gonna dive in and just be this really long viewing of the three films in the trilogy. So Split follows James McAvoy's character who has DID. I forgot to look it up. I can't remember. Something dissociative identity disorder. I think that's what it is. I'll leave it down below, and I'll leave the Wikipedia link down below for it. And I think this is what we used to call multiple personality disorder. And I did another video where I talked about how I felt complicated about using a mental condition as the plot device for a book, but in the case of this, I still feel complicated about that, and I don't know how I feel about that, but at least in the case of Split, it's very clear that that's what it's about. That is, the protagonist has this disorder. It is very clear that he is portraying different identities, different personalities, and they are very different from each other. They're different ages, they're different genders, they have different occupations, they have different philosophies. That is the core of this film, is his character, or the character, I guess it would be more appropriate to say. And so I feel like a little differently about, because it's not a plot device, it's not like a trick, it's the focus of the film. So I still feel complicated about that and the representation of that just generally, but at least it's very clear that that's what this is about. Like, that is what drives the plot, is the fact that the character has DID, and there is actually some discussion about it as a disorder, because he has a therapist, and he goes to his therapist and they talk things through, and then we see her thinking, doing, about things about this disorder. So I felt like it was a little more fleshed out than often we see, especially in horror movies. It can often be used as sort of like, that's what the bad person has, and that's why they do the thing. That's not what this one was about. It is. It is a part of the film, but it's not a trick at the end. Anyway, I didn't mean to go on like a whole tangent about that to start it, but I think it's relevant to talk about that in terms of the film. So basically, this film is about one of the sort of more underlying nefarious personalities decides to come out more strongly in someone who has been more stable for a period of time, but a more nefarious personality or just identity comes out and kidnaps 3 girls and you know, keeps them locked up, and then they have interaction with the different personalities. They don't understand what's going on. You know, well, 2 of them don't understand what's going on. One of them sort of picks up on it, and so, you know, the girls go missing, and people are you know, it's on the news, and you know, he's going to his therapist, and his therapist is like, I'm not sure what's going on. You seem a little different. So like, it's just it's that's sort of like the center. Like, that's what it's about. Is like, you know, one of his identities captures these 3 girls, and then we see them being in captivity and the different personalities and stuff like that. So for me, I found this one challenging because I just think I am done seeing films where women or girls are, captured, kidnapped, forced into situations. I didn't know that that's what it was about. I thought it was more about him and having just different identities. I thought it was more like that, and it is, but it's like the vast majority of the film has these girls in a really horrible situation, and I just was not I almost turned it off. I was just like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. I've seen this in so many movies, and I'm just sick of seeing it. And that really turned me off. So I did stick with it. And it does have, like, this one's a challenging one. It really is a challenging one. Because, like, the big star of the show definitely is James McAvoy as the different person, like the different identities. He does an extraordinary job portraying them, and you know who they are. But on the other hand, it's also hard because, not hard, they all dress so extremely differently, and they act so extremely differently from each other that as a viewer, it's very clear that this is not the same person. This is not the same identity. So there wasn't any moment of confusion at that point, which I think is something that I was expecting, so, but like, it's one of those things, like, as an actor, I can imagine the draw to be able to, play all of these different roles, and he does them all so well. I think James McAvoy is a great actor. He's just really formidable. So so that was a treat to see, like, this compelling, varied performance by him. So I enjoyed that part of it. But one of the other challenges I have, actually, the challenge I think I have for the big challenge I have for this one is actually a spoiler. So I'm going to have to leave that till the spoiler zone. So I'm going to say, like, for this one, one of the questions I have for 31 Days of Horror is whether or not this was scary. Like, for me, it's like the scary part of it is the realism of women being, kidnapped or taken captured or made to do things that they don't want to do. For me, that's the scary part of it. That his character, I felt like there was actually a great amount, especially from his therapist, there's a great amount of compassion for him, and awareness of understanding disorders. So that I was really impressed with. But what I found scary was actually sort of the realism element of it, as opposed to other parts of it. Mind you, this is a thriller as opposed to like a straight up horror movie, so that kind of makes sense. So the tension points are really high, and as a thriller, that is what you are looking for. I would recommend it, especially if you have seen Unbreakable. I would definitely, if you're gonna try and watch the informal trilogy, I would imagine it makes more sense to watch Unbreakable first, but mostly as it relates to Glass, because these 2 films did not have too much in common in terms of plot, but you definitely have a sense that they have a similar tone and stuff because they're both by M. Night Shyamalan. So if you want to watch the informal trilogy, I think that's how we phrase it for this one. I definitely would say watch Unbreakable first if you haven't seen it, and then watch Split, and then go ahead to watch Glass. I'm looking forward to seeing Glass. I haven't seen it yet, but there. So I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it, actually. I did not enjoy it. But I will watch more from M. Night Shyamalan. I think he is quite a compelling and interesting storyteller, and has really brought a lot, and has gotten a lot of flack that I think, most of which is undeserved. Other than, I did think The Happening wasn't a good movie, but I just, the backlash felt very more than necessary, especially. So I think this is a really good one for him in terms of, getting back into the game, because it's a really solid film, really solid thriller. But just in terms of the subject matter, it didn't quite work for me. But I think, oddly, the thing I enjoyed the most was the compassion for the character and having the disorder. But we can go into that just a little bit more. So oddly, I would recommend this, except if you have the sensitivities in terms of women in captivity, because I honestly, I was just the tension level of that and the duration of that. I was like, no, no, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that anymore. So anyway, that was, and I did have to a little, I did have a challenge with that when I rewatched Unbreakable as well. It was not as long, but it was very disturbing. So yeah, there's that. So I think now I'm going to go into the spoiler zone where I share full thoughts on a couple of the different things. And I think mostly with this one, there's only one thing that I really had a big challenge with in terms of the fact that there's supposed to be this tension because of this idea of there's this one, I don't know if it's supposed to be an identity of like the beast and how it's not possible. Like I think as an audience member, we are supposed to believe it's not possible, humanly possible, for the fear of that identity to be real, or to it to be able to emerge, this character of this identity of the beast. But knowing that it's M. Night Shyamalan and seeing Unbreakable and seeing other ones of his films, I actually had zero tension. Of course it was possible. That's what we are leading up to for the entire film, is that the beast is real. And so when we see the physical transformation of the character into the beast, of him getting larger, of him being like stronger and all of these things, I felt like there was no tension. Like there was tension in the fact that it was a scary situation, but there was no tension in the fact that of course it was going to happen. And I gotta say, like, it's one of those things that knowing that this is an informal trilogy, you know where this is going to go. You know that he is going to get away. You know that it's not going to be resolved. You know that the story needs to keep going. I didn't know exactly where it would end up going in terms of the story in the very, very end, but I knew that people were surprised that this was an informal trilogy, that it had a connection to Unbreakable. But when you start to add up the pieces of those things, it's like it makes very, very, you know, it's very perfectly logical at the end for us to end up seeing Bruce Willis's character. So I do want to see Glass. But I'm surprised that it's called Glass, you know. You know, I do want to see it and I am looking forward to it. But I was disappointed in the fact that I didn't feel like there was any suspense in terms of a viewing experience on whether or not he would become the beast. Because of course he would. Because what else would happen? Like what else would happen? Was he going to get captured? Probably not. And I also found it disturbing the one girl who is able to reason with him, and I sort of noticed that something strange is going on in terms of talking to the different identities. And I found her storyline compelling, but I also found it very disturbing because we see her backstory. And she's able to reach out to him, she's able to understand, she's able to progress further, she's able to, I think she does eventually get away, or at least she gets further than anyone else. And it does set up this, like, I feel like because we see her backstory where she is, you know, she comes from a hunting family and she ends up like living with her uncle, and it looks like he's abusive. And it kind of makes it feel like, you know, she's like in both situations, she's the victim and she's like the prey. And because she was the prey in her family, she understands how to survive in this situation, or because she was the victim in her family, she understands how to survive the situation. And I think that that is some that can be some pretty disturbing. You know, I don't think it's messaging per se. It's not condoning anything like that, but I do feel like it's a very disturbing thought, and so I found that really challenging as well. So it's weird. This is one that I really found, like, although I thought it was well done, I did not enjoy it very much. And I was very sad about that. Like, and I really considered turning it off. And I think it's just one of those things that, you know, your taste in films can change over the time, and the subjects that you're interested in can change over time. And for me, I do like thrillers and I do like horror movies, but I just, seeing this level of threat to people for so long is something that I'm not interested in. So it's like, it's good to add it in the mix, especially in doing something like this. But I think generally my home, like for me, like the horror movies that I enjoy the most are more sort of like the supernatural movies and or more campy things, when it's something that's very realistic and it's, again, humans doing bad things, you know. And this makes it even more complicated because he has an identity disorder. Is he responsible responsible? Which part of him is responsible? What does society do in this situation? You know, but at least it kind of asks those questions and, you know, presents like some different opinions on that and a variety of opinions on that. That literally, the stuff with the therapist was the stuff that I appreciated the most. Oh, how things change over time. I gotta tell you. And I'm trying to remember when Unbreakable came out. I think it was the 2000s, like 2000 and I don't know, 2, 5, 6, 8, somewhere in there. 2, 1, I don't remember. It's been a long time. And on second watch, you know, when I watched it last year, I was like, wow, yeah, that is really disturbing. Like it's really, you know, but when you see how the story lays out there, of course the story is going to lay out here, and that's a whole question like on the sort of like auteur style as well. But I could go on and on and on about that. But yeah, so Split. Let me know your thoughts on it. Did you enjoy it? Did you know that it was connected to this informal trilogy? Yeah. So there you go. That's one more film down, and I look forward to the next.